For countless ages, long before anyone carved symbols into stone or spoke more than broken sounds, humans drifted like shadows through an unforgiving world. They lived by instinct, not thought. They followed the herds, feared the storms, and prayed to the sky without knowing why they lifted their eyes at all. Life was a circle of hunger and hope, and most days, hunger won. Among a wandering tribe living on the edge of a vast valley, a young boy named Rue walked quietly behind the adults. He was small, observant, always staring at things instead of keeping pace. When others looked for meat, Rue looked for meaning. He didn't have words for the questions in his mind, but they burned inside him like sparks waiting for wind. The valley they crossed was beautiful, yet harsh towering cliffs, a restless river, and patches of strange plants that grew taller than any human. No one paid attention to them. Plants didn't chase, didn't bleed, didn't fill the belly with warmth. They were background, nothing more. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the sky, the tribe settled near the riverbank. Children searched for berries, while hunters sharpened crude stones. Rue wandered to a patch of tall grass, drawn by something he couldn't name. He knelt, pushing aside the stalks, until he found clusters of tiny seeds resting in the palms of the earth. He picked one up, rolled it between his fingers, and wondered why it felt important. A strange curiosity crept into him. Why did some patches grow thick while others were sparse? Why did these little things fall everywhere? Why did plants stand still yet return year after year? He didn't know it yet, but this single moment was pulling humanity toward its first doorway. When the tribe prepared to move at dawn, storms rumbled in the distance. Heavy winds ripped through the valley, scattering leaves and knocking over the fragile shelters they had built. People shouted, trying to escape the rising river. In the chaos, Rue clutched the seeds he had found, holding them like treasures. By the time they reached higher ground, the storm had passed. But the group had lost supplies, and several hunters had been injured. Hunger hovered over them like a predator. They needed food, but the herds had moved far away. The tribe argued, fear rising, each wanting to blame something or someone. Rue sat alone, staring at the seeds in his palm. He dug a small hole out of frustration and dropped them inside, pressing dirt over them. It wasn't intention, just a moment of childish anger. But something about covering them felt right, as if the earth accepted them. Days passed, and the tribe moved only a little each time, weakened by hunger. One morning, Rue walked back to the spot where he had buried the seeds. The soil had cracked open. From the center, tiny green shoots reached upward, glowing softly under the morning sun. He gasped. The world seemed to shift. He touched the leaves gently, feeling life that had risen from something he thought was dead. For the first time, he understood that the earth itself held secrets humans had never looked closely enough to see. Rue ran back to the tribe, pulling them toward the sprout. They stared silently, confused, uninterested, until one of the elders recognized the plant. They had eaten its dry seeds many times during harsh seasons, but now it stood fresh, green, full of promise. The elder touched the shoot and whispered a sound that resembled awe. Others knelt, watching as if witnessing a miracle. The idea, the impossible idea that food could be made instead of found, began to flicker in their silent minds. That night, they stayed near the sprout, not because they fully understood it, but because something felt different. Something felt safe. Drew could not sleep. He sat beside the tiny growing plant, watching the stars reflect in the river. For the first time in his life, he wondered if humans could shape the world instead of being shaped by it. If these small seeds responded to his hands, what else could deviate? No, this was the first whisper of knowledge, the first seed of civilization, the first spark of everything humanity would one day become. But the earth knew, and the earth was ready. Rue woke before the sun rose, long before the tribe stirred. The little green plant stood taller now, stretching upward as if greeting him. Dew clung to its leaves like pearls. In the quiet dawn, surrounded by soft mist, Rue felt something he had never felt before: responsibility. As if this tiny living thing trusted him. When the tribe awoke, they gathered around the sprout again. The elder knelt, touched the soil, and then looked at Rue with a strange expression. Not annoyance, not confusion, something near respect. The tribe did not have words for innovation or discovery, but they sensed that Rue had done something important. Still, fear lay heavy on their minds. Food was scarce. Most of the group wanted to leave the valley in search of the herds. Staying in one place had always meant death storms, predators, hunger. Humans survived by moving. It was their only rule. But the elder hesitated. He held a handful of seeds Rue had collected and studied them as if they were pieces of the moon. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt and pressed the seeds into the soil beside the sprout, copying Rue's motions. The tribe gasped. No one had ever tried to grow food before. The earth took what it wanted. Humans took what they found. That was the way. But not anymore. The days that followed tested them. Hunger pushed some to suggest moving on. Fear whispered that the plants would not grow fast enough. But Rue kept watching the soil, tending it, watering when the river allowed. He protected the sprouts from curious children and wandering animals. And slowly, miraculously, tiny green shoots began rising from every place they had planted. The tribe gathered in awe every morning, watching the plants grow taller, stronger, fuller. The valley no longer felt like an empty place. It felt alive with possibility. One evening, wolves circled the camp. Hunters prepared their stones, expecting the worst. But the wolves did not attack. Instead, they sniffed the edge of the planted area, wary of the unfamiliar smells. The presence of the growing plants seemed to give the tribe a small shield, a territory claimed not by fear, but by intention. As the plants grew, so did the tribe's understanding. They began to recognize patterns. The sun warmed the sprouts, the water fed them, and the soil sheltered them. They learned to remove weeds, chase away animals, and mark the boundaries of their growing field. Without knowing it, they were building the first farm in human history. One morning, the first golden seed clusters ripened. Rue touched them gently, amazed at how the dry seeds he once held in his hand had returned multiplied. The elder handed him a woven basket and nodded. Rue grasped the stalks, pulled them gently, and felt them detach with unexpected ease. More followed. The tribe watched as he collected handful after handful. It was the first harvest, the moment humanity stepped out of fear and into creation. They roasted the seeds that night over a small fire. The smell alone brought tears to the eyes of the starving tribe. When they ate, they did so slowly, savoring every warm, earthy bite. It tasted like hope, like survival, like something earned rather than found. After the meal, the elder raised a seed in his palm. He placed it beside Rue, a gift, a symbol, a beginning. Rue understood. They would not wander forever. They would return here each season. They would grow, they would stay. Other tribes would see the strange green valley and wonder how these people survived. And soon the knowledge would spread from valley to valley, carried by travelers, shared by firesides, whispered into the futures of children not yet born. What Ru started would outlive him. It would outlive his tribe. It would outlive countless generations. From these small seeds would rise villages, then towns, then great cities built of stone and vision. From these fields would come trade, culture, language, stories, and the endless web of human progress. And it all began with a boy, a handful of forgotten seeds, and a question no one else had ever dared to ask. The night sky stretched above them, filled with stars that had witnessed millions of years of wandering. But on this night, for the first time, humanity had planted its roots. The first chapter of civilization had finally begun.